This video will cover an approach to data-driven automation using test data automation for datasheet modeling to drive test automation in Test Modeler. Test Modeler is a collaboration hub for all members of the software delivery lifecycle, with the model existing as the central point of truth. These models contain all of the critical business rules and behavior within the target system, and the model-based approach enables all members of the software delivery lifecycle to collaborate from a central model of the system and align the software vision. Teams can work much more closely with each other. For example, business analysts can design requirements models that are used by developers when they are writing code. Then, the test teams can use those same models to generate optimized test cases and the required test automation. This approach provides clarity and allows users to work together on a common open testing platform to achieve the same end goal, delivering quality software with no bugs on time. In this approach, we will create dynamic data models from datasheets that we will use to generate rich combinations to drive test automation scripts. To begin with, we will convert testers' spreadsheets into datasheets inside the Test Modeler portal. Then, we will convert those datasheets into dynamic data models. There are a range of key points and benefits that should be mentioned. First, we can remove the need for big folders of messy spreadsheets by accurately capturing them inside Test Modeler and converting them into useful data models. These data models allow testers to generate very rich and varied data combinations for test. This approach allows for the centralization of test data repositories and reduces the effort required to use your test data in tests and automation. Modelers can also augment their existing automation models with data models to enable greater test data variation. Now let's have a look at the demo. This is the application that we will be designing our data-driven automation around. You can see it is a very simple customer creation screen where we're going through and entering various pieces of data, eventually ending up in a state of created a customer account. The test data that we're going to be using to drive our automation is on screen now, and you can see each one of our columns here, like first name, last name, email, and password, relate directly to our application. Now, in this case, we have around 9 or 10 rows of data, and we've actually used some of our data generation functions to create this data. So if we have a look at this first name, you can see we've got our data generation function here. And if I want to come in and generate a new one, all I need to do is just re-resolve this and we'll get a randomly generated first name. And you can see we've done that for last name, email, and password as well. The first step here is to import that datasheet into Test Modeler. So this is very simple. All we need to do is come in, select new item, and add our datasheet, like so. Now, the end result of this is a datasheet inside Test Modeler that looks something like this. Now, it's essentially just sort of this spreadsheet editor, but now we can use this to start to build out a data model that we can use to drive our automation. To do that, we can come into our VIP Executor menu, search for a process called Create Model from Datasheet, and you can see we've got a process here that is going to go away and auto-generate a model from that initial datasheet. So all we need to do here is come in and add some different parameters like name, location, and where we want to create the model. Now we've specified all of those relevant parameters, we can come in and execute that job. Now our job is complete, we can go and actually have a look at the model that we've created. Inside our model, you can see that we've captured each of the columns, so email, first name, last name, and password, and all of the relevant test data associated with those particular columns. We've created them into these test data trees, which will allow us to generate much more rich data combinations as we move forwards. Now, how do we make those data combinations? So to do that, we use our very powerful test case coverage engine. This allows you to generate the minimum number of tests required to meet your specified level of coverage. These coverage levels have 3 or 4 main settings. So we have low, medium, high, and exhaustive. And the use of these depends on how much test data, in this case, you actually want to be generating. So in this example, I've selected just a high coverage profile. Save this, and we've come in and actually generated 83 different combinations or 83 different parts through our model. Each one of these parts represents one separate row of test data, and this now allows us to plug those test data into our test automation scripts. We can also come in and actually take a look at that data that we've created. So if I come in here, download the data, the resulting file looks like this, where we have all of our different variables, and you can see each one of these rows is essentially a unique combination of our data that exists on our model. So here we have a very, very simple and linear automation-based model of that create customer account screen. On this model, we just have a very simple few automation references that are going to drive the automation on that particular screen. So if we actually have a quick look, you can see that some of these functions are parameterized. So for our enter first name function, we need to pass down a first name parameter into our reference there. So how do we now combine the two? We have this automation-based model and we have our data model. To do that, we've created a new model here and embedded these two individual models as subflows on top of this master flow. So if we open this up, you can see that we have that linear automation-based model embedded. And then if we open up our second subflow here, you can see we have all of that data that we just worked on importing into Test Modeler. Now what can we do from here? So we can now come in and begin to generate different scenarios, different data scenarios through our application. Now the difference here is that instead of just creating data scenarios, we're also creating automation scripts at the same time. So once we've generated those tests, we can then come in, hit our run button, and begin to generate those test automation scripts. So I can come in here, select our language. In this instance, we're just going to be using a Java Selenium framework, but we can go in and execute that. Now that job is complete, we can actually come in and have a look at some of those test execution results that have taken place as part of that execution. So you can see on the right hand side here, of our 18 parts, we've got a few that have failed and we've got a few that have passed as well. We can come in, have a look at some of these results, and you can see all of the different test data that we've created and sort of pushed together into different combinations. And you can then see, we've come in and created a specific account on our demo website here. Thanks very much for watching. Any questions, please feel free to email us at info@curiosity.software.